Okay, so I'm finally going to be going through and doing the rewiring. So in the beginning of this, I said I was leaving it messy until I had everything kind of wired how I wanted it. So I have the line lock, blinkers, trans brake, everything is wired. Only thing I don't have hooked up yet is the solid state relay for like the bump function. So I'm going to finish that as I'm doing all this instead of undoing it. So right now what I'm going to do is start taking all the wiring out, labeling everything. I do have all the relays labeled, but I want to do all the wiring, and I'm going to be building like a relay board over here, which I already have this section of ABS cut. So I basically just notched it around the tube right here, and I'm going to probably weld in some little tabs to bolt it down, and then it's going to kind of come in at an angle this way. So it will go on the opposite side of that hole, and I can hide all the wiring behind it. So that's kind of the plan. Let's do it. Okay, so I got my masterpiece out here. Basically, I'm going to be using all new relays because I wrote on these and they kind of look like crap. So I'm going to start fresh. I got all new relays. I'm probably going to do little labels for them. That's what I would like to do. And inside the car, it looks a little bit better already, probably because there's nothing in there. But I would like this whole area to be open. Eventually put a dash in there. So now all these wires, these are going to be tucked kind of behind this rail. So this board is going to come over to the opposite side of this hole over here. I think I'm going to find some type of a grommet or something to put there to protect it a little bit better. But now I got to take the ground cable and the power. This is just some welding cable. So I'm going to pull these out. This one is connected to the block under the starter. Under the starter, and then this one goes to the alternator. So what I'm going to do, because they come back towards the tunnel here, and then back out through this section, and they're too long, so they're kind of looped over, and then they go to the inside, and then I have this other one here kind of just going straight through. So they're all going in different directions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have them all come this way, tucked on the outside of the bars, behind the bar here, and then into that little pocket, so I don't have to worry about anything here, because I did have to take the seats out to get to the wiring, because all the, like, my positives and negatives coming from the fuses in the back were all on the inside, and this is where the seat kind of touches. So the wires were all ran in this little pocket, and I wasn't able to get to any of the wiring there without taking the seat out. So I'm gonna run everything on the outside, get that little plate to fit. That's what I'm gonna do next, is get these two wires out, because then I can start fitting up the plate. All right, so I got the wires going out and around behind the bar. Behind the bar here, just tucked them out the door for now, and then I took all the other wires, like I said, behind the bar, and kind of test fitting my little ABS plate there. So I got it notched around the rail, and the idea is to have it kind of flush with the bar here, and have some tabs welded on the backside for mounting, and then I just got to trim a little bit, and I'm going to try to get it to come in a little bit. I don't want it kicked out that far, but I do want to leave some room kind of behind there. So I'd like to get the back side of it to come in about 1 inch or 2 inches, but that's kind of the rough idea of what it's going to look like. The idea is they have everything mounted to this. So I'll have the ECU, all the relays, a fuse box, and I got like some little terminal strip things, and just going to kind of lay it all out on there. Okay, so here's what we have. I did a little bit more trimming. So it trimmed a little bit off here because it was hitting the floor. And then this little section up here, and then here for the little cross bar that's coming down. So got everything. I'm just using sheet metal screws right now. What I'm going to do tomorrow, because I wanted to figure out the orientation before I bought bolts and everything that I need. I'm going to do bolts that are the right size. So right now I'm just using sheet metal screws, and there's some drywall screws in there just to kind of lock it in position. But I do have 6 relays, because that's what I was using before. I had the blinker relay, ignition, starter, fan, radiator fan, trans cooler fan, and 2-step. So that's going to be like trans brake solenoid. So I'm going to wire it differently than I did before. This one I was using a positive signal, and this was basically giving an input to the computer to activate 2-step, and I was sending power to the trans brake with the button. So I'm going to change it, so I'm going to be using the button to send a ground to the computer, and then the computer is going to control the 2-step and the trans brake. So I'm also going to be adding the bump feature. So I got the solid state relay on there, 12 volt fuse panel, 6 relays. And what I'm going to do here is basically, this is a 12 terminal board. I'm going to use 6 and 6 for the relay. So one's going to be the trigger. So there's going to be 6 that are going to be the triggers for the relay, and then the other 6 are going to be the signal out. So I can come in with the trigger. So I can come in with the trigger, activates the relay, sends it back out to the other side here. And then this will go out to whatever source. And then I'm going to use this board as, I think I'm going to use this for like my input-output board. So Terminator X has 4 inputs, 4 outputs. This is 12 terminals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use like 4 inputs, 4 outputs, and then I have 4 remaining. So I could do a 12 volt and a ground, and I could also do a 5 volt and a ground. So if I wanted to wire in any other like 5 volt sources, I could pin it right off of this thing too. Because there's a 5 volt out signal, I could splice it into this, and then I would also have a 5 volt and 12 volt input output board. So that's kind of the plan. I did get these long lead relays. So these are 12 inches, so they're like super long compared to what a normal relay wire would be. So these are really long. So the idea behind this was I didn't really know how I was going to set the board up. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to have one continuous wire. I didn't want to have a relay pigtail and then splice in another wire to get to the fuse box or anything like that. So basically my plan is to all the wires that are coming off the relays, they're going to be terminated with just using the pigtail. So, and I can basically go, this is going to be my longest one over here. From this relay, I'm going to come over here to 12 volt positive on the opposite side of this. So if I use that other pigtail, I only would have made it to like here, and then I would have had to splice in a new wire to get over there. So that's kind of what my plan is. So I'm going to go under the fuse box and then wrap it around. I'll show you guys what it looks like. Okay, so this still needs a little bit of work yet. I'm gonna do like a hole here for the harness to come through, so I can plug right in from the bottom side to the Terminator X. But here's what I have on the top end. So this is going to be 6 different fuses. It does have the 6 ins and outs there, powers and grounds. So there's going to be one main power that I'm probably going to drill a hole here, coming with the main power to the fuse block, and that'll do the same on the opposite side with the ground. And now we have essentially all the yellows are positives to all of the relays. The whites are all the triggers for the relays. The black is obviously the ground. Ground goes to the top side here. And the blue is all of the sources coming out of the relay after the relay is triggered. So essentially what I will do is everything that I want to trigger a relay, I will put to the corresponding relay wire. It will trigger the relay, and then power will come back out this side here. And that should work. So I have blinkers, ignition, starter, coolant fan, transcooler fan, and the T-bizzle brake. T-bizzle brake. Just want to clarify that. As for the trans brake, so I also wired the bump solenoid. So essentially what I'm going to have is an input here, and this is going to be from the ECU. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a ground that's going to activate the trans brake essentially through the Holly, and I'm also going to have a bump button that will go to this relay and essentially deactivate it temporarily. So that's kind of what this wire is going to be for. So this wire will control this relay, will work for the trans brake and the bump function, and deactivate whatever you get it. So that's why this is wired the way that it is. I'm kind of happy with the way that it turned out. I would like to do different labels for this so it's not just tape. I just took a piece of tape and then cut it so it looks all fancy. But that's kind of how that looks. Let's throw it in the car and see what it looks like. Okay, boys. So here's what we have in the car. I don't have it finalized yet, but this is kind of the fitment So we have a notch around the pipe right there, and then it comes up and it's notched here. So we're gonna try to get it a little bit tighter. I just have it kind of balancing in there with a wrench right now. So what I want to do, like I said multiple times, is weld some tabs in on the back side here, and I'm gonna do some tabs welded on the back there. I'm gonna keep this thing kind of sturdy, but that's what it looks like. So I'll have some holes for the wiring to come through from the terminator, and I'll also drill some holes here for inputs and outputs, and then we can trigger all this stuff, and then this stuff is going to go wherever it needs to go. And a lot of times you're not going to be able to see it because it'll either be behind this bar, and I do plan on getting a dash for this thing, maybe like a fiberglass dash or a carbon dash or something. I've been looking at the fiberglass dashes are like $200 or something, so I'd like to get a dash in there too. So totally clean this thing up, but that's kind of what it looks like now, and I'm pretty happy with it.